Rev up your engines! Okay, today I got a BMW M3. It's running a little bit off. He's had codes for EVAP, so we're going to check it out with my machine first. He also has a fuel pump. We're going to show you how easy it is to put a fuel pump on, because that ultimately could be the cause of it. But first we're going to look at the data. So here we go. In the other car, it's got an OBD port. Just have to find it, and there it is. They hit it. Of course, knowing BMW, they gotta hide it somewhere, right? There it is up there. Plug it in just like any car once you find it. As you can see, this is a driver's car. It doesn't have a passenger seat. I'm sitting in a racing seat, and the back seat's all ready for racing too. But that's gonna make it easy to get to the fuel pump because it's just there. Here we go. Diagnosis. Now it's Z46 M3. We're gonna start her up here. We're going to do default scan right away. While that's running, you can see it's a 6-speed manual transmission. Got a real handbrake. And like I say, this is a driver's car now. It's going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. Look at all this stuff. It's only got 8% done. It'll take a while. Now, what he mainly cares about is the running of the vehicle. Realize this is a Tennessee car. It does not get emissions testing. It doesn't have to worry about any of that crap. It doesn't care about heating and all that crazy stuff. This is a bare bones BMW now. It's cold outside, that's only 28, so it is taking a while for it to go through the whole system. It's 87% done now, even though it's been going on for 4 or 5 minutes. We're looking at stuff that has to do with the running of it. Now the central body electronics has problems. And here's the codes. Anti-trap, anti-theft. So that's stuff we don't care about that. He's got all that stuff basically disconnected anyway. We don't care about all this. What we care about is engine motor electronics. The digital motor electronics, inlet of the vanos, variable shaft timing, adaptation is off. Now this thing's been modified so much. Let's clear the adaptation values. Here we go. And you can see it's already idling smoother. So now just for giggles, we're going to shut it off and turn it on. Quick erase while we're erase everything. While erasing everything, I'm sure someone will come back because some of these things don't even exist on this car anymore. But we just want to clear everything before we road test it. So this is the anti-theft system. That's the only one that's the hard code. That's the only one that's there. We don't care. Like I say, this is more of a race car than anything else. A bunch of this stuff's been disconnected, but now we're going to start her up. We'll look at the injection system. Now you can see there's a little bit of differential in the injector duration. Okay, 1.51. This one is 1.75, 1.68, 1.79. They're not perfectly even. They're off a little bit. Let's rev it up a little. As you rev it up, they get more even. So that just shows they're a little bit worn at idle. They're off a little. When you get an old vehicle at an idle, your injection system, if it's a little worn, you're going to feel it more than at higher speeds. At higher speeds, it kind of levels off. So, hey, this is more of a racing vehicle. We don't care about the low RPM. We're more about the high. And the high RPM is working fine. Ignition system, and you can see that's perfect. They're all exactly the same, 21.5. So, we know the ignition system's working perfectly. More data. 13.7 volts is good. The check engine oil is off now, so let's take it for a spin. Short shift on, look, that's it. That's the shifting. You don't have to turn it very far because he put a racing short shifter on the thing. Take it out, and we'll see if any codes come in. Now, being set up for racing, you hear all kinds of noise. Exhaust pipes, things are rattling and stuff. There's nothing wrong with a car. It's just set up for racing. You don't care about sound. Obviously, all the insulation's gone too. Now being a race car, we'll take it to our little racetrack. Nobody's coming. We'll get up the hill here, and there's nobody behind us. Come to a stop, and here we go. Yeah, it sure rattles a lot, but man, it's got acceleration. Goes. And of course, being a BMW, it handles like a dream too. Here we come up on little speed. Supposed to go 20, we're going a lot faster than that. It handles like a dream, baby. Hardly any turn of the wheel at all. So really, this is one of BMW's ultimate driving machines. Doesn't ride all that good. He's got it set up for racing. It makes a lot of noise. But man, it goes and it corners. So far, at least, After resetting everything, the light hasn't come back on. Check engine light stayed off. And I noticed it doesn't have any flat spots, accelerating or anything. It's running perfectly fine. Now, being set up for a race car, this has got to be the noisiest BMW between the exhaust and everything rattling around from the racing suspension. But it's also a lot of fun to drive around too, even though I'm squashed in this racing seat. But it is comfortable. This is one high revving 6-cylinder engine. Look at that baby go. Just listen to this engine. It is running like a clock. Although I do have to say, I wrenched my back climbing out of that racing seat. I'm too old for that kind of stuff. Youch! So the light hasn't come back yet, and the only thing is essential electronics. That stuff's all gone. The check engine light is gone. You know, the fuel pump's easy to access. We're not going to change it because it's still spot on. Pump in the back seat was on sale. It's a hell of a pump, so it's a good pump made in Germany. But since the pressure's spot on, there is no sense in changing it now. It'll make a good spare. If he's ever anywhere and it goes out, he can pop that in if he needs to. He might never need to. It kind of reminds me of myself. Okay, my Celica. I got a spare fuel pump, spare starter, spare alternator, and they've been sitting in a box for 12 years because they never go bad. But I was always worried, hey, it's an old car with 240,000 miles, right? But if it doesn't break, hey, especially in a modern vehicle like this where I saw the fuel pressure and know it's perfectly fine. On the Celica, I'd be guessing it's too old. I'd have to put a gauge on it and measure and stuff, but it still runs full speed, so I don't care. I just left it alone. But if you have to, since he doesn't have a back seat anymore, it's so easy to change, you can do it anytime you want. Now, he's owned this for 14 years, and he shed about 450 pounds of it by taking out things like the seat he doesn't need, and a bunch of wiring, which is why it's got the anti-theft thing on, because all this stuff is gone. But that engine, as quiet and powerful as it is still all original. BMW always made great 6-cylinder engines, and with that 6-speed manual tranny, this thing is an indestructible monster as long as you don't run into something. But I do have to say, cars like these M3s, they're driver's car, and he indeed is a driver. That's probably one of the reasons that Tesla is the #1 wrecked car in the United States. Something like 24 out of every 1,000 get in a wreck every year because people buy Teslas and they're even faster than this thing, but they don't know how to drive. They're not drivers. They're just people. Oh, look, it's a fast car. Fun. Oh, boom, run into something, right? If you know how to drive, this is the kind of car for you. So these actually don't get in that many wrecks, even though they're fast. The people who drive them know how to drive them. And in his case, he literally has no distractions because he has no passengers to bother him. It doesn't even have a radio. He's a serious driver. Okay, I had an old German customer back in Houston decades ago. He drove a Porsche, right? And when he bought that Porsche, he went in a dealer. They said, well, what kind of stereo system you want? He says, I don't want any. I want to listen to the noise of this engine. And they thought he was nuts. He didn't want a radio in his Porsche, right? Well, he wanted the noise. He wanted the driving experience. Same thing like me on a motorcycle. Some of these clowns are put speakers on motorcycles, or they're wearing headphones when they're driving. No, you want to hear the machine. You want to be one with the machine. And if you're driving it hard, you want to make sure you're not going to wreck it because something's going wrong that you're not going to hear if you got on headphones or a giant stereo blaring away. He didn't even have a stereo in this. All he is driving around in this car having fun. Now, he's done a bunch of stuff to it. He bought it for like 24, he's maybe put another 10 in, cutting the roof down and stuff, but for that small amount of money over 14 years, he's got a screaming vehicle that's still got tons of life left in it. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Sean Heath says, I'm looking at a 105,000 mile Toyota. I'm looking to buy a Toyota Versa made for Europe, 7 seats. It's got a 2-liter diesel engine with 105,000 miles. They want 3,995 pounds. Is this a good price? Well, you do want to have a mechanic check it out. It's a diesel. They can have problems if they weren't maintained, but if they were maintained, they're going to run a lot longer than that. 3, 4, 5 times that, right? Now, it is a great price if you're in the United States, but you're talking pounds, so you must be in Great Britain somewhere, right? In Great Britain, car prices are much lower than in the United States. In the United States, there's this big scam of these companies that say, we give the value of cars, and they overinflate the value of used cars because the information is based on data that is given to them by used car dealers. And of course, used car dealers are going to say they sold cars for a lot more money than they did because they want to make as much money as possible, right? Well, in the United Kingdom, they don't have a setup like that. And when I was there, I thought, wow, a lot of beautiful cars, pretty dirt cheap, because used cars there are seen as just what they are, used cars, right? Now, if you were in the United States and you found a 7-seat Toyota that had 105,000 miles and it was only, $39.95, even though that's pounds to dollars, it still isn't that much more. You'd jump on it because here in the United States, that thing would go for $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 or more. But in Great Britain, things are cheaper. Still a decent price. You want a mechanic to check it out, though. You never know. Is it wrecked, flooded? Nobody knows. Get it checked out, but if it's okay, go ahead and buy it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.